If you eat bacon for breakfast, you could be slowly harming your family without realizing it. The pack in your fridge might contain chemicals linked to bowel cancer, salt levels higher than seawater, and more added water than actual meat. We reviewed factory reports, supermarket labels, curing processes, and customer complaints to understand what is really inside popular UK bacon. The results were alarming. Most brands use nitrites that can form dangerous compounds when cooked. Today we reveal the 9 worst offenders and why they're still filling shopping trolleys. Wait for the final one, because it's a brand that sits in countless UK kitchens right now. 9. Aldi Everyday Essentials Bacon. The bargain bin bacon that costs you more than you think. Aldi has built its empire on undercutting the competition, and nowhere is that strategy more visible than in its Everyday Essentials range. British shoppers grab this bacon without hesitation because the price looks too good to refuse. But here is the uncomfortable truth. That low price comes with trade-offs that affect every rasher you cook. Like most budget supermarket bacon, Aldi Everyday Essentials is wet cured using brine injection. This is not a gentle soak. This is industrial needles pumping salt water directly into the pork to speed up production and add weight. The result is bacon that arrives in your fridge, heavier than the meat alone would justify. And when you drop those rashers into a hot pan, you witness the evidence firsthand. That familiar white liquid bubbling up is not fat rendering, it is the brine escaping, the water you paid for, turning your frying pan into a boiling pot before the bacon can even begin to crisp. Consumer after consumer reports the same experience: significant shrinkage, rashers that start wide and end up half the size, uneven cooking where parts stay limp while others turn brittle. This is not a manufacturing flaw. It is an inevitable consequence of the curing method. When you inject meat with that much liquid, you are engineering a product designed to lose volume during cooking. Then there is the salt. Action on salt surveys consistently reveal that budget bacon sits at the higher end of sodium content. 2 rashers can deliver more than half an adult's maximum daily salt intake. Combine that with the standard nitrite preservatives that 90% of UK bacon contains, and you have a breakfast item that looks innocent but accumulates risk with every serving. Aldi positions this product as an affordable staple, and for families watching every pound, it seems like a sensible choice. But when a product shrinks dramatically in the pan, when you are paying for water that evaporates before you eat, the real cost per gram of actual meat tells a different story. Cheap isn't just cheap, it's costly in ways most shoppers never notice. And Aldi isn't alone. 8. Tesco Everyday Value Bacon. Britain's biggest supermarket, Britain's most deceptive bacon. Enco moves more groceries than any other UK retailer. Millions of households trust that blue and red branding every single week. And sitting on those shelves, tucked into the value section, is a bacon product that epitomizes everything wrong with industrial meat processing. Tesco Everyday Value. Bacon follows the same playbook as Aldi. Wet curing with brine injection. Water pumped into pork to bulk it up. Held in place by phosphate additives and preservatives. The result is a product that might look like bacon, might smell like bacon, but behaves nothing like real bacon once heat touches it. The reports are consistent. That white residue pooling in the pan, rashers that lose their shape almost immediately, a texture that never quite crisps the way properly cured bacon should, and flavour that customers describe as weak, watered down, nothing like the bacon their parents used to buy. But here is where Tesco takes the issue further. Action on salt investigations found that Tesco was one of only 2 major supermarkets that opted for no front of pack label on any of their bacon products. Think about that. While other retailers at least gave shoppers a traffic light warning about sodium content, Tesco removed that information entirely. Customers were left in the dark, unable to make an informed comparison. The saltiest bacon found across all UK supermarkets in the 2020 survey came from Tesco. Their finest unsmoked Wiltshire Cureback bacon medallions contained 5.3 grams of salt per 100 grams, more than twice the concentration of seawater and the equivalent salt content of 1 Burger King hamburger in a single rasher. Now, that was a premium product, not the value line. But it tells you something about Tesco's approach to bacon across the board. If their finest range can hit those extremes, what does that say about their formulation philosophy? And when the budget version arrives in your basket, do you really believe the salt and water? Manipulation suddenly disappears. Tesco sells convenience. They sell volume. They sell price points that fit family budgets. What they do not sell is transparency. And when a supermarket this powerful refuses to put clear labels on their bacon, you have to wonder what else they would rather you did not see. 7. Morrison's Savers. Streaky bacon. The budget brand hiding a greasy secret. Morrisons has always positioned itself as the supermarket for proper food. Their marketing leans heavily into British sourcing, butcher counters, and the promise of quality. But their Savers range tells a very different story. Morrisons Savers Streaky Bacon is where cost-cutting meets consumer deception. Streaky bacon, by its nature, carries more fat than back bacon. That is expected. But the Savers version pushes the balance further, using lower quality cuts where the fat-to-meat ratio tips decisively toward fat. When this bacon hits the pan, the oil released is remarkable. Not in a good way. Customers describe rashers swimming in grease, cooking surfaces coated in residue, and finished bacon that leaves more fat behind than it delivers in edible meat. The texture skews chewy in the fatty sections, brittle in the thin meat portions, and rarely achieves that satisfying bacon crunch. Action on Salt once highlighted the variation within Morrisons itself. Their Savers smoked rindless back bacon contained 3 times more salt than Morrisons, the best Applewood smoked dry-cured back bacon. That is not a slight difference. That is the same supermarket selling products in the same category, with wildly different health profiles, and expecting budget shoppers to simply accept the worse option. This is the hidden inequality of the British food system. Families who can afford premium products get lower salt, better cuts, proper curing. Families watching their spending get water injection, excessive sodium, and fat content that leaves breakfast swimming in grease. Same supermarket, same branding, completely different standards. Morrisons knows this. They know their budget lines carry compromises that would never pass in their premium tier. And yet, the packaging shows similar colours, similar layouts, similar promises. Nothing warns you that the Savers version will behave completely differently in your kitchen. That discovery only comes when you are standing at the hob, watching your bacon shrink and swim. And if Morrisons looks worrying, wait until you see what a rebrand tried to hide. If you're learning something new here, hit subscribe and keep these eye-opening breakdowns coming. 6. Asda Just Essentials Bacon Rashers. The rebrand that changed nothing underneath. Asda recently overhauled their budget range, replacing Smart Price with the sleeker Just Essentials branding. New packaging, new colours, new messaging about quality and value. But peel back that rebrand, and the bacon underneath tells the same old story. Asda Just Essentials Bacon Rashers are designed for speed and cost efficiency at every stage. From the factory to your fridge, every decision prioritises margin over quality. The curing's aggressive, the water content is high, the rashers arrive thin, and they get thinner still once you cook them. The cooking behaviour is particularly telling. These rashers fry quickly, almost too quickly, because there is so little substance to them. What starts as a reasonable looking slice becomes brittle and fragile within minutes. The texture turns papery at the edges, while the centres stay underdone. Getting an even cook requires constant attention that busy morning kitchens simply cannot provide. Compared to Asda's premium tier bacon, the difference is stark. The premium options use slower curing methods, retain more meat integrity, and cook with predictable consistency. The Just Essentials version offers none of that. It is bacon engineered for a price point, not for eating experience. And once again, the processing level climbs above what you might expect from something labelled as basic bacon. Preservatives, nitrites, added water, and salt levels that push toward red traffic light territory. This is not simple food. This is industrial food wearing a simple mask. Asda's rebrand tried to shake off the stigma that clung to smart price products. But rebranding does not reformulate. A new name on the packaging does not change what happens inside your body when you eat it. And when a supermarket invests more in marketing refresh than ingredient improvement, you know exactly where their priorities sit. 5. Co-op own brand bacon. Standard range. The ethical supermarket with an additive problem. The Co-op has cultivated a reputation as the conscientious choice. Fair trade products, community investment, ethical sourcing claims that make shoppers feel good about their purchases. But their standard own brand bacon reveals the limits of that commitment. When you flip the pack and read the ingredients, the list extends further than you might expect. This is not artisan bacon. This is industrially produced bacon carrying the standard array of preservatives, nitrites, and processing aids that dominate the UK market. The ethical branding stops at the label. To be fair, Co-op is not the worst offender on this list. Their standard bacon sits somewhere in the middle of the pack for salt content and processing intensity. But that is precisely the problem. For a supermarket that trades so heavily on doing the right thing, middle of the pack should not be acceptable. Their reduced fat unsmoked bacon medallions actually achieved the lowest salt content in the 2020 Action on Salt survey at 1.45 grams per 100 grams. That proves Co-op can do better when they choose to. But that exception makes the standard range look even more disappointing. If they have the capability to produce lower salt, lower additive bacon, why does their everyday option still carry the industrial formulation? So Op shoppers expect more. They pay slightly higher prices based on the promise that their grocery choices align with their values. But convenient everyday bacon tells them that promise has boundaries. The ethics apply to some products some of the time, when margins allow. The rest of the time, you get the same processed product available everywhere else, just wrapped in better storytelling. This is not the worst bacon in Britain, but it might be the most disappointing because it comes from a retailer that should know better and has proven they can do better. Choosing not to feels like a betrayal of everything their brand claims to represent. Co-op's issue is ethics versus reality. Iceland's problem is something else entirely. 4. Iceland thin-cut bacon rashers. The freezer aisle favourite are hiding a sodium bomb. Iceland built its business model on frozen convenience, quick meals, easy prep, prices that appeal to families stretching every pound. Their bacon fits that model, perfectly, thin-cut rashers that stack neatly in sandwiches and cook in minutes, but convenience comes with hidden costs. Thin-cut bacon is not inherently problematic. Some people prefer it, but when that thinness combines with aggressive curing and high sodium content, you end up with a product that delivers salt in concentrated doses. There is simply less meat to dilute the preservatives and curing agents. Every bite carries a higher proportion of the additives. Iceland's bacon lands firmly in the category of industrial processing. Sodium nitrite for preservation and colour, added water for volume, salt levels that push the daily intake needle further than many shoppers realise. And critically, Iceland was one of only 2 supermarkets identified by Action on Salt as providing no front-of-pack nutrition labels on any of their bacon products. That absence matters. Without traffic light labelling, shoppers cannot quickly compare products in the store. They cannot see at a glance that one bacon option carries far more salt than another. Iceland's customers are making purchasing decisions blind, trusting that a major retailer would not sell them something problematic. That trust may be misplaced. The thin-cut format also affects cooking behaviour. These rashers crisp quickly, sometimes too quickly, catching and burning before thicker sections cook through. The margin for error shrinks when you are working with slices this thin, and once overcooked, the texture turns unpleasantly hard rather than satisfyingly crispy. Iceland positions itself as the smart choice for budget-conscious families, but smart choices require information, and when a retailer deliberately obscures that information, removes the labels that would allow comparison, you have to ask what they are hiding and why they do not want you to know. But salt isn't the only concern. Sometimes it's the fat that should worry you. 3. Sainsbury's streaky bacon, basic range. The fry-up favourite that could consume your entire daily fat allowance. Streaky bacon occupies a beloved spot in British food culture. The full English demands it. The BLT sandwich requires it. Wrapped around sausages, it becomes the indulgent treat that makes Sunday mornings special. But Sainsbury's basic range streaky bacon takes that indulgence into dangerous territory. Streaky bacon is, by definition, a fattier cut. It comes from the belly of the pig, where marbling and fat layers create that characteristic appearance. Nobody expects streaky bacon to be diet food, but when you examine Sainsbury's basic offering, the saturated fat content per serving becomes genuinely concerning. A small portion of this bacon can consume a significant percentage of your daily saturated fat allowance. We are not talking about a generous plateful. We are talking about 2 or 3 rashers, pushing you toward limits that health guidelines say you should not exceed in an entire day. Add the inevitable accompaniments of a cooked breakfast, the eggs, the toast with butter, the sausages, and you can blow through recommended daily intakes before 9 in the morning. This is not about demonizing fat entirely. Dietary fat serves essential functions, but saturated fat specifically carries links to cholesterol elevation and cardiovascular risk. When a single breakfast component delivers this much saturated fat, it deserves scrutiny that the basic branding does not encourage. The salt content adds another layer of concern. Sainsbury's basic range bacon does not escape the sodium problem that affects the entire UK market. 2. Lidl Birchwood smoked bacon, the cult favourite that earned its reputation but not its health credentials. Lidl has developed an almost fanatical following among British shoppers. The treasure hunt mentality, the surprise middle aisle finds, the European products that feel like discoveries. And sitting at the heart of their regular range is Birchwood bacon, a product that genuinely tastes good but carries processing levels that should give regular buyers pause. This is where the list gets uncomfortable. Birchwood smoked bacon delivers on flavour. Consumer reviews are overwhelmingly positive about the taste, the smokiness, the way it crisps in the pan. For pure eating pleasure, it ranks among the better supermarket options. But flavour and health do not always align. The smoking process that creates that appealing taste also contributes to the formation of compounds that raise health concerns. When meat undergoes smoking, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons can form. These compounds, along with the nitrites used in curing, contribute to the cancer risk that the World Health Organization flagged when classifying processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen in 2015. Salt content remains high. Lidl's Birchwood smoked reduced saltback bacon was highlighted in action on salt surveys as containing 2.13 grams per 100 grams, a level that still exceeds products from other supermarkets that make no reduced salt claims at all. When your reduced option beats competitors' regular options in sodium content, the baseline is clearly too high. The ingredient list reveals the standard industrial formulation: pork, water, salt, antioxidants, preservatives including sodium nitrite and potassium nitrate. This is not traditional craft smoking. This is factory production with added smoke flavouring and curing agents designed to create consistent results at scale. None of this stops Birchwood bacon from tasting good. That is precisely the problem. When something this processed delivers genuine pleasure, regular consumption becomes easy to justify. A treat becomes a habit becomes a health risk accumulated over years of morning breakfasts. 1. Richmond back bacon, the household name that exemplifies everything wrong with modern bacon. Richmond is one of the most recognised brands in British breakfast. Their sausages dominate the market, their bacon sits in millions of fridges every week, and their formulation represents the pinnacle of industrial meat processing designed to maximise profit while minimising cost. Richmond back bacon is wet cured using brine injection, a method specifically identified by the Wiltshire Bacon Company as producing inferior results. Brine injection means salt water pumped directly into the pork through sets of needles, adding weight, adding moisture, and adding the familiar white residue that pools in every pan that cooks this product. The water content is significant. When that injected brine releases during cooking, rashers shrink noticeably. What looks like generous portions in the packet become much smaller on the plate. You are paying bacon prices for water that evaporates before you can eat it, but the water is only the beginning. Richmond bacon carries a full array of additives and preservatives. The ingredient list reads like a chemistry set compared to traditional dry-cured bacon, which needs only pork, salt, and thyme. This is food engineered for shelf stability, for production speed, for consistent colour and texture, across millions of identical rashers. And here is the uncomfortable truth. 90% of bacon sold in Britain contains nitrites that produce carcinogenic nitrosamines when cooked and ingested. The World Health Organization has said that eating just 50 grams of processed meat daily, about 3 rashers of bacon, increases bowel cancer risk by 18%. Scientists have called for government bans on nitrite-cured products. Leading researchers have described the ongoing sale as a dereliction of duty. Richmond is not uniquely guilty. They operate within an industry that has normalised these practices. But as a market leader, they bear greater responsibility. Their scale means their formulation choices affect more families than almost any competitor, and their continued reliance on water injection, heavy curing, and industrial additives sets the standard that others follow. This is not the bacon your grandparents ate. Traditional bacon was dry cured with salt rubbed into the pork, then aged for weeks. It went stale because it was real food. Richmond bacon stays soft in the fridge for days because preservatives prevent the natural degradation that signals genuine quality. When Britain's favourite breakfast brand represents the worst of industrial meat processing, it tells you everything about where our food system has gone wrong. Richmond could reformulate. They could invest in better methods. They could follow companies like Finnerbrogue, who proved nitrite-free bacon is commercially viable. Instead, they continue selling what sells, health consequences be damned.